That's well. I mean,
Wow.
the people described like this black smoke just coming up. It wasn't. I really wouldn't say asymmetrical. I mean, it was all from one spot. So, but I mean, billowing off. I mean, they were like bobbing them. Like I said, I drove from Stoystown Auto Wreckers to the crash site. I did reasonably fast, although I don't know how fast they were going. They might have been doing 75 miles per hour on these little back roads. I didn't do that. It took me like 4 or 5 minutes to get there, so I know it lasted long enough that, like, if Val McClatchy dropped her camera, she had plenty of time to put the batteries back in and snap a few more shots.
Well, good point. And, of course, again, don't lose the fact that, as Dominic has said, you got people that have rushed from another place, and the cats if there was anybody working in that salvage yard on, what was that, Rawlock Road, was it again?
Yeah.
Never walked out. I mean, okay, there's a little problem there.
Yeah.
But, all right, so, all right, and you tell me, because now, you're leading me. I don't know, because you got some pretty good information here, and probably the most recent. What's the chances of two sites that would have given off any kind of signature smoke? And I don't know. I mean, is that a possibility, or do you think that whatever started that McClatchy caught might have later turned on to be what we would know as pretty much a low smoldering and not mushroom cloud type of fire? What about that?
Well, my opinion is I don't think Val's photo is authentic for anything.
Do you think it's photoshopped?
I don't think she did it. I don't know who. I imagine it was probably the FBI that did something to her and told her to shut her mouth. But yeah, I think that photo is fake.
All right. So in other words, they may have not been necessarily. Boy, I know this is where we get in tight. We'll never know. Mm-hmm. They might have been one incident, and that. Well, boy, you know what? And I'm thinking this out as we go along. I don't mean to bore anybody, and I think if you understand, Dominic. I mean, I'm just being pretty earnest about this.
Yeah.
But if we did have that crater shot, that gave us that. And if we do have something that had to come down, it isn't going to come down without a thud.
Correct.
Or without smoke.
Correct.
Ah, boy, I tell you. You see where I'm going with this? In other words, they could have seen something else. And
yeah.
Lord, I mean, it was 6 miles, further from the crash site, and that's a decent amount. And like you said, and I've looked, and people, you can go on to Google Earth and do a terrain search. I looked at that, and like what Wing TV said too. I mean, there are ridges upon ridges upon ridges of mountaintops, 2,400 to 2,600 feet. It's like an accordion.
Yeah, it's real easy. If you had a low-flying plane, it would be real easy for someone on the ground just to lose track of it.
Yeah. Oh, boy. All right, now, again, we're going to run a little bit over the hour. If you can stay with us, is that okay, Dominic?
That's fine.
All right, I think we can get this done in about 90 minutes. I don't know if we can't. I'd love to have you come back again. And I appreciate the time you spent with us. And, I mean, folks, think about this. I mean, this guy's not making money.
No, not a penny. I've been driving there. The first trip was on the 6th anniversary was the first time I went out there because my thought was, you know what, if there's something to all this, I'm close enough that I can do something, if not just to find an answer for myself, and I've been driving back and forth for 2.5 years. I've logged in thousands, I would say hundreds of hours talking to people, and yeah, I mean, it's not for money.
But Dominic, have you ever been threatened?
No. Surprisingly, no. I mean, I've had some people out in Shanksville pretty angry that I would even call them.
Okay.
But like, I haven't had the Men in Black show up yet.
Okay. Well,
but at the same time, if you look, a lot of the larger 9/11 sites, they really. They don't do much to help my work be seen. Sometimes it's better not to talk about someone at all,
Yeah, that's a better way to make them go away.
Yeah.
All right, agreed. I mean, I have no problem with that, and I consider you legit. And also, whoever cares what I think. But Wing TV also, I mean, Lisa looked at your stuff, and especially the Miller interviews. Mm-hmm. And I mean, she almost crawled up a wall. She's going, first of all, he contradicted himself within the interview he gave to Dominic.
Oh, so many times.
I know. And secondly, she goes, he contradicted himself a million times when he talked to me and Victor.
That's first off, I can't even believe that happened. It was so surreal. But like sitting there with him, it was just amazing. His body,
yeah,
and the way he acts, and he's so angry and confrontational. It was like I didn't even really have to grill the guy. Like I pretty much just handed him a rope and let him do the rest.
But you know the thing, I don't know. We talked about this. I think I did with Lisa. It's almost like this guy has been paid to do this, and no matter how painful, he has to drag his bony ass out and go through this thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like he has to do this. It's like this is where, you know, all the conspiratorial researchers stop with me. He comes out and he's like, you know, when I watched him with you, Dominic, he was like alternately annoyed, tired, and then he would get energized, and I'm like, why didn't he just kick your asses out?
Well, he had agreed to do that as a favor to the representative out there.
You mean a state representative?
Yeah, the state rep. He set it all up, and
you got him to do that for you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, actually, it was a couple guys. It was Sheldon Langford from Pilots for 9/11 Truth and Patriots Question 911, who actually made that all possible.
He had to deal with you, and that's how he acted.
Pretty much, yeah. And what it was Wally had been friends with the state rep Bob Bastian, that's his name. I mean, they've known each other for years. And he was like, "Well, if you're asking me to do this, Bob, I'll do this for you." And I told Wally, I said, "Listen," I said, "here's what I'll do." I said, "You agree to do this?" I'm like, "I'm not going to, take a sound bite and put it out there. Right. I'll put out the whole thing. I'm not going to cut you up. I'll give you the whole run of the day. Just answer my questions." He's like, "Well, if you'll do that, then okay, there's no problems." And then some of the questions I started asking, you can see made him real uncomfortable.
All right. Yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah, and at the time, I was, I believed a lot more at the time in the shoot down than I do now. And he would look at me and go, "What? You don't think there was a plane crash?" He's like, "You're disrespecting people." And I'm like,
yeah.
"I'm not disrespecting anyone." I said, "I think the plane was shot down." He's like, "Oh, I'm not even talking about that." And then it was like, "Yeah, get out of here with that. I don't even want to hear that because."
All right.
Wally Miller knew knew there was something wrong with all this crap.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And whatever he's going through, he deserves.
Yeah.
Before we go to that DMOR thing, which is important, but I want to go back because to pass by, excuse the pun, Indian Lake Marina would be wrong. And okay, and that's Indian Lake Marina. What has that got to do with anything?
Well, what's fascinating is right at Indian Lake Marina, we have the accounts of a couple employees who were working. Actually, we got the owner. His name was Jim Brandt. We have his manager. His name is John Flegel, and we have another employee named Carol Delasco. Now, these three people all talk about how before they heard the sound of the quote-unquote crash, they heard the engines come roaring overhead, which, of course, is impossible because Flight 93 can never fly over Indian Lake. And John Flegel says, they heard the engines roar over the marina, and he said, wow, they were watching television that morning, and they had seen, what had happened at the World Trade Center. And John said, I looked over, and he's like, and I was kind of joking with everybody. I said, oh, maybe they're coming for us now. And he goes, and no sooner than I said that, he's like, the lights flickered. He's like, and then there was the sound of the crash. And then Carol Delasco said, after they heard the thud and the impact, they ran outside. And that's when she said she ran outside. She thought someone blew a boat up on the lake because the debris was just coming down out of the sky, which, if it was blown there by the wind, would take 20 minutes.
All right. Yes, exactly.
And then right before them on a little road there called Pueblo Path is where Barry Lichty lives, who we talked about earlier, who said, he heard this, what he called a missile, sounded like a missile, he said. Whatever, he goes, this thing was, it was really cooking, whatever it was flying. And he said it came from the direction of the crash site, so that's how we know it came from that direction. And then if you dig deeper, you'll find, which is right by the Indian Lake Marina there, you have the golf course, the Indian Lake Golf Course.
That's right.